Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at, well, I think a good list or a list of 50 units that you probably need, or I find, for me at least, have been essential to my success in various content in Dokkan. And I'm ranging this across, SBRs, ESBRs, red zones, leader skills, punching bag events. So it's going to be a bit of a wide selection. I'm going to refrain from including free-to-play characters, maybe one or two that I feel are very useful, and I will also be going through characters I don't have that I do think could be added in. So the list is around 50 characters, so yeah, but there will be certain types of characters that I'll be selecting instead of every variant of that character. A great example being for Nuking events, I'm going to show you the Nuking units, or units that are great for Nuking events. However, I'll be choosing one unit of that type, mention a couple of the others. This kind of keeps the list down and just allows people to understand what they want. But I'm someone who summons on Dokkan, so I'm free to play. I've been free to play for pretty much my whole time in Dokkan. I've spent around $45 in this game, and I haven't spent any money in this game for around basically since I started the YouTube channel. So what's that, 3 years or so? So I haven't spent any money in this game at all. It's not something I don't I don't have anything against people that spend money. I just personally don't have a desire to spend money in these type of games. But you can get a lot of characters and you'll build them up over time. But which characters over time have I found that I've just used a lot, whether that's in Ultimate Clash, Red Zone, World Tournaments, SBR, ESBR, pretty much across the board. I think something that's super important as well to note is leader skills. I think leader skills are a super important part of whether a unit is someone you want to use. So it is just something I think is super important. So I'm going to select the units and then we'll talk about each one super briefly. I don't want to go into huge detail about the unit, but more just talk about what they're used for and why I like them, and yeah, what kind of dupes you're looking for. So Physical Super Saiyan Broly, great place to start. World Tournament Extraordinaire, great for ESBR and SBR as well, but really World Tournament, I've seen a ton of payoff with them. He made World Tournament so much faster and easier for me. There are other options now, but he's still in those premier World Tournament lineups. He's still in good SBR and ESBR lineups, and you don't need a lot to make him work. His leader skills also pretty good. On the other extreme physical side, to be honest with you, the only current other real essential one that I feel is necessary, or that I find to be really good, is Goku Rose. Obviously a new recent release, but having used him a lot, I find that obviously he's part of the new wave of units, and I will be including some discussion about the anniversary units that have yet to come to global, but I obviously won't be including them in here except for the ones that will easy A to a certain extent. So keep that in mind, but those units obviously are great and are essential to Dokkan accounts as well. On the super side, things are a little bit more interesting. I think with super sides, you have a lot of questions about leader skills here and building teams with units and what units are core to crucial content. So obviously the anniversary units tend to spring to mind, but definitely the 7th anniversary and 8th anniversary I think are still very crucial units. Beast Gohan as well, although people maybe don't like him so much, especially compared to maybe the 9th anniversary for whatever reason, well, who's exceptional of course, but Physical Beast Gohan is still great. He's a 200% lead for the majority of hybrid Saiyans as well. The 8th anniversary Boo Boys are also fantastic. Their active skill is great, leader skill is good. Physical Krillin is a great free-to-play unit that's useful in World Tournament, SBR, ESBR, and even long-form events, pretty much all the way up to even some Red Zone. So I do like to mention Krillin. MVP 17 is also one I would like to mention. I don't highlight him so much directly, but he's still a great floating support. Even though I love Physical Trunks, he's not essential for two reasons. One, there are plenty of cover leads for his category that he not necessarily is better than, but also he as a role is restricted to 2 second and third slots. Although he's excellent, I don't find him absolutely necessary. GT Goku is a great unit though. So why do I consider him more essential than Trunks? Well, because he helps me finish the punching bag events every single time. He's on tons of categories. He's super crucial for the punching bag event. And even units like this, Dragon Ball Goku, you won't see me include, because I have used him and he's a great unit, but he also has never been essential to any of my no item runs, to any of my runs in a lot of content. His leader skill, although good, isn't necessarily OP. And even he himself is a fantastic unit, but he has some linking problems. On the extreme side of things, I think extreme strength is definitely lagging a little bit. Out of all of these units, yes, the Cooler Duo are probably maybe still 2 units that I think have great utility. Super Buu is a great EZA, but really Extreme Strength is struggling at this point. I only include them out of the notion that they do lead one of the stronger Extreme category teams, but Extreme, as a rule of thumb, is very heavily tied right now to Future Saga, and so Extreme Strength just doesn't feel that grand. From a super strength side of things, I do think that Future Gohan is a unit that's great. So in the exact opposite to Trunks, I think his leader skill is great, but he himself is a tad bit more usable in a lot of content himself. I think SBKK Goku, his leader skill is also great, and he finds himself being very usable depending on the upcoming EZAs and the way his category is being treated. Strength Kefla, although being an exceptional unit, is an exceptional unit on a lot of teams, but her team is not necessarily super powerful. So Universe 6, or how should I say, Universe 6 is fantastic, but it is one team. So for me, she feels good, not necessary. I do feel like the 5th anniversary Gogeta is a great unit to float on a ton of teams. Kefla also I would probably include if I could go back and redo the filming for this video, so I would definitely include her. And the free-to-play Super Saiyan Blue Vegito is a great free-to-play option who's on a ton of categories as well. This Chi-Chi, actually, I also want to specifically mention because she's a fantastic unit that can seal and has been super helpful in Ultimate Clash. And then we have Strength Piccolo, who I find to also be an exceptional unit that has helped out a ton of teams, but especially helps out Tech LR Piccolo with allowing him to have an absolutely fantastic time together with him. And Strength B-Pan is also a free-to-play unit that I found exceptional use in. Gamma 1 is also a great unit with a great leader skill, who I find also to be a unit that can really elevate the teams that he's on quite sufficiently. And I won't include him, but I do want to mention him. But this Strength Krillin is actually exceptional on an Earthbred Fighters or World Tournament team, and I actually really enjoy using him. But he's not an essential unit, but I just like to mention him. On the extreme int side of things, I think things are a little bit different again here. So, like, obviously LR int Goku Black is awesome. LR int Goku Super Saiyan Rose and LR Merge the Master. I think they're awesome. But I find that Cell's leader skill and his overall ability in his transformation don't make him necessarily better, but make him more essential. I find there's a lot of teams I can build under the Android Cell Saga category that make things work, and I find that int LR Goku Black is probably my last pick on the Future Saga team, and LR int Merge Master is more a substitutionary pick than anything else. So I do find that int Cell has the most variability with his leader skill. Same with Demon King Piccolo. I find him to be an exceptional choice, obviously from a leader skill standpoint and just a usability standpoint. And even int Majin Vegeta, I find his leader skill to be a bit more viable. Again, I will say that you can 100% put LR int Goku Rose in a list of 50 essential units, but the thing for me is he's not on enough categories to kind of be a unit that I would say is essential. A lot of the times units either need to be, for me, disgustingly amazing leads, and being 150% lead to a category is just not something I think is worthy to make you essential, even though you might actually be a top 30 unit in the game. Of course, we have the Super 16 or Android 16 as a free-to-play unit. I think people need to understand just how useful he is in so many situations. And as well, the int Final Form Frieza is also super useful, and I've used both of them in a ton of situations. On the super side of things, before we get there, I do want to mention Chilai. Again, a very similar unit in that on the right team, she is a really fun, amazing unit to use. And then she's not really usable on a ton of other teams. So again, another unit that's exceptional in certain situations, but just kind of falls off a bit from a versatility point of view. Then we have, on the super side, I do think Int, Trunks, and Vegeta are a great unit. I think they are personally a fantastic unit. I think they are really, really good. I think they're exceptional. I think they are super duper solid. Similarly, I'm including this Vegeta more so because we know now that his EZA will be outstanding, and so having him is a great build-up for the 9th anniversary. Then, talking about kind of the rest of the units, for me, there's a lot of great units here that are not necessarily units that I would say are top units in the game, but help players with a ton of content. Pepe Gal's teams, really helpful with a ton of content. Ultimate Clash, just really, really good. In Future Gohan, I will say I think is a fantastic choice for a ton of teams as a floating option, but he's not necessarily outright maybe one of the best units in the game, but I find him to be so super useful. In terms of other Int characters, you have units like Int Vados, who are great but maybe too restricted, and Int Whis, who's great but maybe too restricted. I also am trying not to include Dragon Ball Heroes units, because DB Heroes units are a little bit difficult to utilize, as you need to summon on DB Heroes banners. From the LR perspective, I do find that Int Full Power Goku is definitely one of the premier units in the game, but his leader skill allows for a lot of flexibility. And then I do think the Int Super Saiyan trio are kind of the inverse, whereby they aren't necessarily a unit that actually has a great amount of flexibility due to how their passive works, but what they do have, what they make up for it, is overwhelming power and a very frequently buffed category. Super Saiyan is always going to get at least 1 or 2 big buffs per year. I just don't see it being an issue. There are great units though, like Int Pan and others that I'm not including in this list. And it's not because I have anything against those characters, like the tournament participants 17 and 18. I think they're all very good. I just don't find them to be essential, or maybe units that I find to be core units to my experiences in Dokkan. They've been fun to use, but they've never been crucial or critical to any of my success in stages. And that's kind of what I'm basing this a lot on. Very similarly, the DB Saga Belma is a great free-to-play option, but again, she was fun to use, but she's never been clutch for me in content. Doesn't mean that she can't be for you, it's just not for me. Extreme Tech, obviously starting off with the Android 1718, aged a little bit now, but still have a really great amount of utility with them. Similarly, the Janemba. I find this guy so useful. Some people don't like him. I find him incredible. I've used him on a ton of teams, and he just brings that final little bit of reliability in the third slot that's really stood the test of time. His guarding all attacks and his 30% damage reduction make him quite crucial. In the same way, Transforming Frieza has been clutch for a ton of Ultimate Clash runs, and I can't really kind of list characters that have this flat 130% extreme type lead. I think he's helpful from that perspective. He's great in a ton of content, and similarly with Tech Golden Frieza, Tech Golden Frieza's super tanky. There's really nothing I can say in that he's super useful in certain bespoke content. You'll face AGL characters, when they hit Frieza, it's gonna feel like nothing. On the super side of things, obviously, I think Super Tech has some great options. The God Boys I find to be a super useful pair of units. Their leader skill is still amazing, and they themselves are still incredibly solid. Super Saiyan Goku very much the same. Yes, I understand his leader skills maybe not so great, and he does need a dupe or two, but the thing with Super Saiyan Goku is that he's on so many categories, and his revive skill is very useful, especially with how some of the revives work coming up. The Go Bros, although not as hype as I wanted them to be, are still an exceptional unit with a fantastic leader skill, and I find that the Super Saiyan God Goku is still an incredibly useful unit from an orb changing perspective and a tanking perspective in a tons of content. Then we have Mr. Gohan, who stands the test of time as always, and this is where I'm talking about types of characters, because this Super Saiyan God Goku, he represents all the Nuking leads. So you'll see his leader skill is plus 35% per orb. There's him, there's Physical Trunks, Physical Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, Int Baby, Int Beerus, etc. He represents all those characters. Those characters are super useful for building Nuking teams. You need to have them, so Goku represents them. Then we have Tech LR Piccolo. I don't need to talk about him too much, but obviously he's a great unit. Aging a little bit, you may need a dupe in him, but still a fantastic pick. Tech Vegito, I don't find as useful as Strength Gogeta, and that's my opinion. I'm not trying to label anyone, but I find Tech Vegito less useful, but I'll still include him. And then I find Tech Caulifla to be a great unit. Now the difference to why I include Tech Caulifla but don't include units like Strength Kale or AGL Kale, Tech Caulifla has usability outside of her team, because you can still use her in Ultimate Clash in any event. The God events when they first came out were like, oh wow, I can just throw Caulifla in there. She'll just dodge everything. She's very useful because of that ability. And then we have Tech World Tournament Goku. Obviously, much like in Piccolo, just an exceptionally strong, great unit, and Earthbred Fighters is a strong category. Finally, we get to AGL, just before we talk about the units I don't have. Now, AGL has some really great picks. You've got, Zamasu, who's excellent, but I think AGL struggles in the sense that it has units that kind of peaked at a time and then have kind of dropped off or need more help on their teams. A great example is like AGL Golden Frieza LR. He's useful, yes, but I actually don't find him as useful as the AGL Golden Frieza, who's the base level one, the one that's not an LR. I find him more useful. Health requirements less restrictive. His damage reduction stays up harder, and he serves more of a purpose as a tank. Same with AGL Turles. He's a based key and attack support. He's useful for nuking events. He's useful for any kind of basically damage-based event. And he's very useful in SBR, ESBR, etc. And Super 17 even is more versatile as a unit, it seems, in catering to androids as like one of their only tanks. On the free-to-play side, there's some interesting units, but I personally don't think any are crazy. Got Android 1718, you've got Super Strength Vegeta, but not necessarily any are crucial. And in the same way, Captain Ginyu is awesome. I just don't find him to be crucial to your account. Is he fun to have? Yes. Is he great? Yes. Does he really aid you in conquering content? He can. But for me, nowadays, with the way the meta shifts, the Ginyu Force isn't going to get buffs anytime soon. On the Super AGL side, I think Kamehameha Gohan is still great. I think MUI Goku with his upcoming EZA, of course. Then you have, obviously, SS4 Goku, who I think is fantastic. You have EZA Super Saiyan Gogeta, who still has a brilliant leader skill and himself is an exceptional unit that I think personally is amazing. And then we have the AGL Blue Boys, who I think were a bit underrated when they first came out, and I think they're still an exceptionally great unit. So yeah, I think they really are excellent, and for me, they're really, really good. Even Paikuhan, I find, has had a little bit more versatility as a unit than some other ones. And I do want to mention, so this Goku here represents orb-changing units. So I'm talking units like Strength Majin Vegeta, this Goku. Orb-changing units are always crucial, and I don't want to list all of them because there's a lot of them. But you need to have some orb changes to basically enable certain content. Like, you just can't do certain content without orb changes, and you need those units. And AGL Gamma 2, I'm including him because Gamma 1 was included, but I actually find him to be less crucial than Gamma 1 due to the functioning of his passive. But there's great units like AGL Margarita I like to include because she's one of the few sealers that you have on the Super AGL side. And she's actually crucial to a ton of my Ultimate Clash runs. Special mention as well for the type supports, AGL Great Saiyaman, Physical Nappa. All of these units are very helpful for Ultimate Clash, but again, referencing them more so than including all of them because it's just going to eat up a lot of space. And then finally, units like AGL SSBE Vegeta, although old, are still great from a leader skill perspective. So that's kind of my list of 50 units that I found that I've just used a lot. over time, just in general, that I've used a lot to obviously accommodate or beat content in Dokkan. But there's also units that I've never got or I've used as friend leads that are also equally as important. And I want to kind of list out some of them right now. Obviously, I think number one on the list is Tech Elazamasu. He's an exceptional unit that I would love to get, and I've used him for a ton of content. He's a great unit. He does a fantastic job, and he's just, really good leader skill. I think he'll age very well as well. Int Gohan, comparative to AGL Goku, I find to be better, and I've used him a little bit, but out of the two of them, I probably used him more, but I just don't think either of them are necessary units. Then we have Strength, the Strength 8th Anniversary unit, obviously self-explanatory because we have the physical one. And then we have Strength Alabama, who's also probably a unit I'd really love to get, who's on limited categories but just excels on all of them a lot. And then the final unit, I think, would be Physical God Goku. Probably the final unit I think a ton of players could benefit from. Super flexible leader skill, and just a great unit all round with a lot of good mitigation and utility, just in general. But yeah, that's it really. Honestly speaking, there's nothing else really to mention. I think I've mentioned most units I find essential, not the best units. I want people to understand that difference. But yeah, that's it from me. Bye.